Okay, so I said that I was going to show you how to create the reference shots within the MetaSound, but actually what I think I'll rather do is just show you how to make a gunshot combinator. So this is a term that I came up with to basically add 3 layers, which will be the body, the tail, and the metallic layer together, and also attenuate them separately. So we want the metal to fall off a bit sharper than the body, and then the tail falling off the least sharp. We also want all these layers, well, except for the metal, to crossfade by parameter, or in our case, distance. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. First of all, we want to again create a patch, audio, MetaSound, MetaSound, where's it, patch, and we're going to call this MetaSound patch Weapon Layers Combinator. And the reason we call it Weapon Layers Combinator is because it might be the case that it's not always a gun. It could be an explosion, could be something else that has 3 layers that we want to attenuate, or that we want to have this distance of 1 kilometer. So explosions, gunshots, I don't know, lasers, distant, perhaps like attention grabbers, some kind of sound effects in the distance that we also want to have these 3 layers, close, medium, and far. And it's important that these are always processed the same, right? So if you have 3 layers for an explosion, or you have 3 layers for a gunshot, you want to keep those crossfades at the same point for everything, because otherwise you're going to have a gunshot that sounds super close and an explosion that sounds super far, because they haven't been standardized in the correct way. So this is why I say MSP Layers Combinator, because this will be our kind of uniform, standardized template for how we want explosions, gunshots, anything else that travels over a long distance to function. So here we have a blank patch again. And what do we want to do? So this is actually kind of interesting because we've already created a patch that we're going to use here. So we're going to use crossfade by parameter. We're going to have 3 of them. Why? Because we got 3 layers. And what's really cool is inside this crossfade by parameter, we already have the randomization, everything happening here. So now we don't have to create that again. So now what we want to do is have our input for our WAV, because they're going to be audio files, body, so that can be the body of the gunshot, body of the explosion, body of the laser that gets shot up into the air, body of the whatever we want it to have. So body close, I can do CV, body mid, and body far. And all those numbers are already set up, right? So that's what we set up in our crossfade by parameter. So this is great, we don't have to do a lot of work for this. The second is going to be our tail. Let's promote to input and say, and just copy this, paste it there, but it's not going to be body, it's going to be tail. And then mid, and far. Great. And then actually lastly, we don't need to have a crossfade by parameter because the metal is not going to crossfade by parameter, and we can have the same for like debris or whatever layer for the explosion or the attention grabber. We can have something that doesn't crossfade by distance. So we're just going to steal this quickly, put it here, and this is going to be our mech layer. Input here, promote that to input. We say, what is this? This is WAV. Oh no, let's not call it so specific. Let's call it detail layer, because the details we don't need over distance. It's just for when you're close. Detail layer. Okay, cool. So that seems pretty straightforward. Now what we're going to have is we're going to have a mixer with 3 layers, of course, because that's how we have it here. We don't want mono, we want stereo. Mixer, there is 3. And what we have to do here is again something similar to what we did with our heights, which is this kind of calculation that's just done separately so that we can still afterwards tweak the volume on our mixer. So what we're going to do here is have we need an input parameter. This is going to be distance. We promote an input, call this attenuation, let's say, distance, and this needs to be for all of them, of course. I'll do something a bit more special with this in a minute, with the detail layer. And then what we need to do is have, this is the volume for height above, height below. So what we're going to have here is actually doing something slightly new here. So we get the distance and we say map in range, float, and it's going to be from 0 to our attenuation distance. That's the maximum. And this we want to set to our 100,000. Remember, that's the 1 kilometer distance. Oh, wait, this has to be max distance. Create an input, yeah, call this attenuation maximum distance, and that will be, for us, for this particular sound, it's 100,000. So it's different. This is your input, right? This is what is being fed in by the engine based on your attenuation. And this is a variable or a input that we can then change. So if for whatever reason we decide that we only want our explosions to be heard from 100 meters away, we can then set this to 100 meters. So that would be 10,000. And then the input coming from the engine would only be from 0 to 10,000. So that's the difference between the input from the game engine and the different distances that we have as an input. It's kind of hard to explain the differentiation between that. Anyway, so what we want now is we want this to be 100,000 because that's the maximum distance of our attenuation, which is being fed in by all the other sources. And this is our maximum distance. So that's going to go from 0 to 1. This will change depending on our attenuation. And let's do max. Yes, it's default at 1000. And what does that do? That normalizes the volume from 0 to 1, depending on if you are very close or very far. And we actually need to do that 3 times for each layer. And then for each one, what we're going to do is we're going to evaluate table bank. And we don't have one yet. So what we do here is we're going to create a new one. Create. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a wave table bank, and we call it weapon attenuation because it's for attenuations. And let's call it rifle. This one is for the rifles, or we can just say gunshots, and we can get more granular afterwards. Gunshot. Perhaps your explosions are going to have different fall-off curves. For like the example, the body might sustain for longer, whereas a gunshot you want it to be quite poppy, so maybe it doesn't hold on to that body for as long. So anyway, let's go for this right now. And here we say, okay, weapon gunshot. And what we're going to do for this is create 3 of them, and all of them will have an input here. And the difference is we're going to have different indexes for each one. Why? I'll show you in a minute. So this one is 0, this one will be 1, and this one will be 2, and yeah, 0, 1, 2. And then we go to our wavetable bank, and here this is blank, and we want 3 different curves. And in these curves, we're going to have a custom curve. All right, so what we're going to do now is create custom curves for each one of our layers. So this one will start off as 1, obviously, because that's full volume. And as we go to the 1 kilometer, we want 0 volume. And also what I want for the weapons is, let's say at 0.2, it's going to drop off quite steeply. Let's say 0.4, and then it's going to kind of slowly ramp down. And then we do, for the second one, we want custom again, and we want this to be full volume. And then when we get to the end, it's going to be low volume. However, we want the tail to kind of linger around for a lot longer. So let's add a key and say at 0.2 it can be 75, and then even maybe let's push it up here to, let's say 0.5 here. This can go a little bit lower even. Okay, let me see what I've done on my other project. Okay, well, that's quite a big difference. So actually in my previous project, I have something that looks similar to that. And then here, it actually only goes to 0.7, doesn't have one there. And this goes to 0.5. So this tail is really lingering around, right? So the body drops off quite quickly, but we want the tail, which has most of the information on distance, location, all this stuff. We want that to linger for as long as possible. Okay, and then our last custom curve that we want for our metal, again, we start at value 1, because we want it to be full volume. Here we want it to be 0. But actually we're going to add a couple of key, because the fall off is going to be super fast. So for this, we actually want to have 0.05. We want it to be at 0.25, and then add a key here, and then at 100 meters we want it to be 0.1, 100 meters we want it to be 0. So this is the metal. This is going to communicate the maximum threat level, right? So when you're within 100 meters, you start to really hear the detail of the weapon, or for example an explosion, you can hear the debris because it's close enough. But after 100 meters you don't need to hear that clicking of the gunshot metal or the dust falling from an explosion. Same for the tail. The tail is going to be lingering around the most because that has the most information about the location of the sound. So is it outside, is it inside? Although actually I will create different curves for inside tails because they would be occluded by walls and roofs and stuff like that. But yeah, say this is in a valley or in the top of a mountain, you want these tails to be heard over a long distance. And then the body of the gunshot, we kind of want it to fall off quicker than the tail so that the danger aspect of it kind of falls off. And then the pop kind of lingers on right all the way till the end, and then they kind of all merge together at 0. Right. So back to the gunshot combinator, we have here the index 0, 1, 2. That's referring to 0, 1, and 2. And that's going to be the output. So we have the range here of the attenuation that's coming in from the engine, and then the maximum distance, which is 1 kilometer, and then we're just normalizing it from 0 to 1. And what that's going to do is have this normalized value, 0 to 1, and output a number, which is also 0 to 1, which is the volume. So what do we want to do now? We want to basically create a variable. It's not going to be an output, it's just a variable that we're using within this MetaSound patch, promote to variable. And that variable is called body. What is this? Body close. Yeah, okay, so this will be body volume. Volume, body, promote this to a variable, and this will be volume tail, and this will promote it to a variable, body, volume, detail. What we're going to do with that is multiply to our output. And again, the reason we do it like this and we don't put this value directly into here is that you still have gain control in your mixer, because otherwise it's taking up, yeah, basically a place that you can mix audio with. So volume detail, that's the bottom one, right? Drop that in there. Nice, now we have basically 3 different volume attenuations. It's not really attenuation, but drop-offs, I guess, for each layer, which is fantastic. Let's make this nice and neat. Amazing. All right, so now what else do we need? This is audio coming through. We also need a trigger, right? So let's create an input trigger. It needs to be a trigger, obviously. Bring that in. And what are we going to do? We are going to trigger this. Easy. We're going to trigger this. And for this, we're going to compare, because we don't want the details to play anything further than 100 meters, right? So if the distance is equal to or less than the maximum distance of the details layer, I'm going to say 100,000, sorry, 10,000, and put that in there. It's a little bit annoying because actually this, if you don't update this number and you for some reason want to have your details layer be heard at 150 meters, for example, this compare float is going to cut it off, even if you change the wavetable. So that's just something to be aware of, but again, it's optimization, and I think it's always better to have as few voices playing as possible. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. In case I will do the mono thing, we can just quickly copy and paste it though. Nice and quick. Also the output mono comes here with it, which is nice. Nice. So that means if we want to have local, we can still use this gunshot combinator. Although actually saying that if you want local, you don't actually want all these layers. So this would only ever be for remote, which means it should only ever be mono. But still, let's keep this for now. Right, so we have unfinished. You know, also something that's, this is a bit overkill, but just makes it a bit neater. You can just promote to a variable unfinished and then call that variable from here. You don't have lines everywhere. It's a bit nicer. Let's also call it unfinished tail, just so we know where it's coming from. If somebody goes, oh, what unfinished, where is this coming from? Tail, okay, easy. Right, so what do we need now? This is, I think this is everything, right? And this is our combinator. This is a patch, so we don't want to start putting sounds in here. What we want is we want to come to our shared weapons tail tail. And do we want to do all of that within the shared weapons tail? Yes, let's do it. So actually, for my project, I want this shared weapons tail to be a patch, because I will then create a combination of my weapon and the shared weapons tail in a MetaSound, so that whenever I tweak the weapon tails or the weapon sound, it will propagate from the MetaSound source to the MetaSound preset. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I just want to put everything in one place so that it's much easier to demonstrate what I want to do. So I think I'm going to put my Weapon Combinator in here. Again, we have everything jumbled up. So let's do a few things that we can already. So attenuation, there we go. Max distance is kilometer. It might be the case that we want to change that for something else. That can be the very last setting that we see. Trigger needs to be at the top. And then we also want volumes, right, for each one of these. So that's going to be fun to set up. Input, body, volume, body. Let's do that. CV, CV, tail, and mech. I'll bring that in there. Mech, body, and tail. Do it like this. Body, tail, mech. Save that. Then we need to order these, right? So attenuate, first of all, the trigger, that will be 0. Then attenuation distance, we want that to be number 2. Max distance can be right at the end. Then we want body close to be 5, 10, 15, and then the volume 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and then 45, 50. No, what is it? Detail 50. Yeah, just make sure you're changing the sort order and not the default value. That can be a bit tricky sometimes. All right, let's save that and then go back to our shared weapon tail. Nice. Okay, but the trigger is not at the top. Why is the trigger not at the top? Trigger, let's just do U -5. There we go. Save shared tail. Now triggers at the top, attenuation distance, that's the input from the attenuation. Max distance, we don't touch that. And then here we want to add our layers. So promote to input, promote to input, promote to input. And here we select body close. I need to import those. Okay, that's fine. Promote to input, promote to input. Okay, and let me just import that stuff. Okay, so I've just imported my layers. So these are some very basic sound design stuff that I made as placeholder, just so we can get the system working. So let's listen to body. Well, let's add it first. Body, why is that far? Okay, these are all in the wrong order. This is why I always like to leave a little bit of space, right? So these are all in 5. So this one is close, 5, mid should be 10, and far should be 15, right? Let's see, update. Yeah, close, mid, far, body, volume, yep, tail, yeah, okay, cool. Right, so we've imported the body close, body mid, and body far, then tail close, tail mid, tail far, and detailed layer. This is going to be the mech. Oh, we actually have several here, so let's, you can do it like this, it's much easier. So mech 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just drag it in, make sure you get rid of this one. So yeah, now we have all 6. There we go, nice. Great, so this is our weapon layer combinator. We have close, mid, far, and a details layer, which is the mech. And now we obviously need to mix that in. So these also need to be ordered. So let's do our output needs to be on finished is at the top. Then left can be 5, right can be 10, and mono can be 15. Save that. Now it's all in the right order. And now let's plug that in to our mixer. Of course we need to trigger it as well. And I want the room to be 0. Nice. Alrighty, so the interesting thing is we actually have this working by distance for our, we have different attenuations based on this. We also need to add attenuations for our, what is this? Height above and below. This needs to attenuate as the same as the other tails. However, actually, if something's really close, we don't want it to be too loud. So we actually need a new index there. And what we're going to do here is just basically copy what we did for the Weapon Combinator. This is quite a handy little thing. And have our map in range and do this for, what are we doing this for? So we have our No, we need just distance. Distance there. We map in range, maximum range, attenuation max distance. Maximum range is 1 kilometer. And we want the range to be, we want the range to be 0 to 1 kilometer, not 1 kilometer to 1. It's very important you get that right. And then the output range should be 0 to 1, exactly. And the index we want to actually have a new index. Let's put this to number 4. And we go to our gunshot thingy. And we say, let's get another entry, custom. We would like it to be pretty similar to the tail. So let's say, of course, we want this to be 1. Although actually, no, we don't. We want this to be 0.5 because when you're close, we want it to be a little bit lower in volume. Then let's say add key. So what's this? 0.25, 0.5, 0.05. We can put this up to 1. And then we're going to match this curve. And then add a key at 1. This is roughly 0.9. And then the last key goes to 0. And this one is 0.5 at 0.7. 0.7, nice, 0.5. There we go. So the only real difference is that when you get a bit closer, we don't really want the elevation thing to overpower you, right? Because if you're just above somebody on like a, I don't know, let's say a platform of a building, you don't want this loud sound, as well as if you're just slightly, you know, like maybe in a ditch compared to somebody being just above you, you also don't want this. So we may need to tweak this, and maybe it needs to be something more like that, you know, but for now, this should be fine. So you go back to weapon tail, we want the index to be 4, and we want to have a variable here, and this is going to be called volume tail. This is not actually correct. Attenuation, atten volume tail, let's do that. Atten volume. And for this, we do the same thing. Not output, we don't want an output, delete that. We want a variable, and then attenuation, volume, elevation, there we go. And we put that where? Here, multiply by float, volume, attenuation, elevation, and we do the same here, and then we put that back here. Nice. And what is this? This is the tail. So actually we want that to be the same, right? So we do this, copy, paste, but we go back to index 2 and then say promote to variable, attenuation, volume, tail, and do the same here. And then this is for our rooms, right? So again, we probably want a new index. So we're going to copy paste this and say index, let's do it in order, right? So index 2, index 4, and then index 5. And we go to our thingy here. And we want it to have a bit more, well, we don't want it to be heard nearly as far away. All right, let's not do that one. Let's just have it match the curve of the gunshot body. And we can use low pass or something like that to reduce. Unless we want to switch the gunshot body to also change to an indoor attenuation when you're inside. Let's keep it simple for now. So let's do index, again, 1, because that's like the body. And we say promote to variable. And this variable is called, you guessed it, attenuation, volume, what's it, indoor tail. Let's do tail, but which one is it? Indoor, there we go. And again, go up here and we do the multiplication, make it this, and we do tail indoor for this one. Cool. That's pretty cool, right? So the distance is working. Just remember, this actually doesn't have any air absorption. It doesn't have any, I mean, we don't have an attenuation, right? There's 0 attenuation here. Where is it? MetaSound source, MetaSound. Where is the attenuation usually? Source, attenuation. Yeah, there's no attenuation settings here. And all these sounds are basically processed in my DAW. So, you know, this is the close sound. This is the far. This is the mid. And for the mech, okay, those are variations. And for the tail, close. And mid, no, this is probably far. And mid. So yeah, just so you know as well, this, I just made one asset, right? I created a close sound like this. And then I just used the exact same processing that I used for these distances. So land close, mid, and far. I processed them, and then I processed my more specific unique tails as well. So close, mid, and far. So there might be a few little changes there, like I think there's a lot more bass in my distant tail, but in general it's just trying to find references and then create a effect chain that then illustrates a similar sort of distance. And yeah, now you have a full working shared tail set. So let's see what happens when we change some variables. Do we want to go up? We want to go down. Let's turn the volume up a little bit on that so you can hear it. And then, yeah, up. What is the distance as well? Let's just make the distance a bit. A little bit further. Cool. One thing that I do need to change, actually, and I'll do this on the next tutorial video, it will be a quick one, is just how to turn these long tails, because look, when we go to the room size, let's go to 2 or 1, it's still playing the outdoor tail from our custom designed gunshot. So yeah, on the next one I'll show you how to quickly just, without having to render new clips for indoors, I'll show you how to just cut off this audio quickly. So that will be the next tutorial.